Hello, my name is Bryce, and this is my channel Striving Intellect. And today we're going to be talking about reanimating zombie organisms and reviving extinct animals on Earth. And as you can see, this is actually a picture or a video of the said microworm that is been in suspended animation in the permafrost of Siberia. Really amazing stuff. Although it's kind of worrisome, like the idea that we are going to reanimate a microorganism that's been frozen in the permafrost for, I believe it was 24,000 years. Obviously, I think it's amazing that we have this actual technology. On the other hand, I obviously see that there could be negative impacts to something like this. So this is actually a picture of the animals that were just brought back from extinction. These are dire wolves. Everybody probably has seen them in the very popular show Game of Thrones. And for these two different processes, they use different scientific methods in order to actually bring these organisms back to life. But all the same, it's a very interesting and similar topics. So I thought I'd talk about both of these real quick. Here's another picture of said microworm. It looks like it's... what is that? 25 micrometers. I believe that's what that is. It's tiny, obviously. And I have a couple articles. This is actually just a short Popular Mechanics article about it. 24,000-year-old zombie worms back to life. Again, I obviously do see like there being some benefits to something like this. On the other hand, it does seem like there is a risk. Like everything, there's a risk attached to it. But I'll go ahead and I'll read through this real quick. Scientists have revived a 24,000-year-old Beteloid rotifer microworm. The rotifer were frozen in permafrost in a long-term cryobiotic state. Lessons from these and other revived organisms could help farms on Mars. We promise this isn't as sinister as it sounds. Russian scientists have revived and cloned 24,000-year-old zombies. Don't worry, this isn't a Walking Dead situation. The undead organisms in question are called Beteloid rotifers, or microscopic wheel animals, named for their circular mouths surrounded by tiny hairs. Like the more charismatic tardigrade, Beteloid rotifers are extremophiles, organisms that can withstand astonishing conditions like red-hot undersea vents or the vacuum of space. For this experiment, the scientists went to Siberia and carved off a slice of permafrost, the term for ground that permanently stays frozen. This particular area has been frozen since at least the end of the Pleistocene epoch, or 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago. Sorry. The scientists took the frozen rotifers and thawed them gently, at which point the rotifers began to just live their lives again, including their characteristic asexual reproduction. The secret to rotifer success is a state of suspended animation called cryobiosis. Again, that's amazing stuff. People are probably more familiar with tardigrades. This is a picture of a tardigrade right here. So it's similar to this. And real quick, we're just going to read an excerpt from this right here. This is actually livescience.com. And this is a section on zombie clones. Rotifers evolved to use cryobiosis because most of them live in watery habitats that often freeze or dry up, said Stas Malalavin, a researcher at the Institute of Physical, Chemical, and Biological Problems in the Soil Science in Russia, and lead author of a new study describe the revived rotifers. They suspended their metabolisms and accumulated certain compounds like chaperone proteins that help them to recover from cryobiosis when the conditions improve. Rotifers also have mechanisms for repairing DNA damage and for protecting their cells against harmful molecules called reactive oxygen species. For the new study, scientists collected permafrost samples by drilling to depths of 11.5 feet below the surface of Siberia's Alazaya River, where radiocarbon dating showed that the soil was around 24,000 years old. When they thawed the samples, researchers discovered rotifers in the Adanita genus in a cryobiotic state. First, the scientists isolated and analyzed the permafrost samples to make sure that they weren't contaminated by modern microorganisms. According to the study, to revive frozen sleepers, we put a piece of permafrost into a petri dish, filled it with suitable medium, and wait until the organism that are alive recover from the dormancy and start moving and multiply. I assume since they're asexual, they would just start multiplying eventually if they had a habitable environment to live in, like water. I'm guessing that the suitable medium may have been something like water. But I'll go on. Of course, once the defrosted survivors began cloning themselves, the scientists couldn't tell which ones were ancient and which ones were newborns, as the rotifers were genetically identical. Because rotifers typically only live for about 2 weeks, the scientists gathered their data from the clones of 24,000-year-old rotifers rather than from the Ice Age survivors themselves. Organisms isolated alive from permafrost potentially represent the best models of biology research, and could provide valuable clues about mechanisms that allow those organisms to survive. Those mechanisms could then be tested in cryopreservation experiments with human cells, tissues, and organs. However, it doesn't mean that humans will be capable of duplicating rotifers' deep freeze sleep and recovery anytime soon. The more complex the organism, the trickier it is to preserve it alive frozen. For mammals, it's not currently possible. I mean, that's absolutely fascinating stuff. Especially the idea that they want to use it to cryo freeze possibly human beings in order to go to further distances in space travel. Like, that's absolutely fascinating stuff. I also obviously think that there are things that could go wrong with taking ancient microorganisms of any type and reanimating them. It definitely reminds me of something you would see in like a zombie movie. But again, that's absolutely fascinating. We can look at it again. This is the organism that was apparently previously frozen for 24,000 years. So, on to something a little bit different. These are clones of direwolves, which are previously extinct animal. Recently, there's been a lot of articles about the different, or these specific direwolves. Sorry, I have an article pulled up. This is Live Science. This is an article about these direwolves that were just recently brought back to life, or cloned more accurately, by a biotech company called Colossal Biosciences. And we'll just read a little bit real quickly. Direwolves went extinct about 12,500 years ago. Now, thanks to genetic engineering, they're back in what scientists describe as the world's first de-extinction. Scientists at Colossal Bioscience, a biotech-based conservation company, best known for trying to bring back woolly mammoths, say they have successfully produced 3 direwolves, Anocyondirus pups. They did this by reconstructing the wolf's genome from ancient DNA, identifying versions of the genes seen only in direwolves and not in extinct carnivores' living relatives. The team then tweaked DNA from modern-day gray wolves, Canis lupus, to include these unique gene variants. They inserted the DNA into denucleated gray wolf egg cells and allowed them to mature in a lab before introducing them into a surrogate dog womb. I mean, that's really fascinating stuff. I believe that's similar to the way they cloned Dolly the sheep. I'll go on. 3 embryos successfully implanted in 3 surrogate dogs, leading to the birth of snowy white pups, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, which are reminiscent of Ghost, Jon Snow's direwolf in the Game of Thrones television show. And obviously that would be what most people know direwolves from in pop culture. Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth in a 72,000-year-old skull and made healthy direwolf puppies, the Colossal CEO, Ben Lamb, said in a statement. It was once said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Today, our team gets to unveil some of the magic they are working on. Absolutely magical. It really is. I'm going to go ahead and show you. These are adorable. Obviously, they're little puppies. These are them when they're very, very young. I believe they're about 6 months old now, give or take. And we'll go ahead and we'll watch a quick video, very quick video of these direwolves howling.
Over 10,000 years ago, a howl was lost to time. but today it returns. Meet Remus and Romulus, the first two direwolves since the Pleistocene era. At just 15 days old, the pups take their first wobbly steps before a much-needed nap time. At 1 month, the pups enter a pivotal stage of development, the transitional phase. Here, they begin to growl, chew, and take the first steps into the world beyond the den.
I mean, absolutely adorable. It seems like they're acting like puppies, generally speaking. Again, that's amazing. It's absolutely groundbreaking technology being implemented in a very, very new and novel way. They talked about the woolly mammoths that they're trying to clone as well. And it looks like this is one of the more successful cloning efforts that they've had. I think they mentioned that they had some woolly mice, that they specifically had cloned as well. But we actually have one more article we're going to go over real quickly, and this is not to just rain on everybody's parade, but basically I believe what this article is going to go over is how they specifically used a gray wolf as the actual egg, so it's not specifically a dire wolf. But we're going to jump to this part and we'll actually read about it real quick. So these puppies are not really dire wolves at all then. It all comes down to how you define species. Species concepts are human classification systems, and everybody can disagree and everybody can be right. You can use phylogenetic evolutionary relationships or species concepts to determine what you're going to call a species, which is what you are implying. We are using metaphorical species concepts and saying if they look like this animal, then they are this animal. So obviously, since it is based on a gray wolf egg with genetic modifications, and then obviously the surrogate was in a female, I mean, it obviously seems like there isn't going to be an exact copy of a direwolf that is feasibly possible for us to produce at this point in time. Again, it's still an amazing breakthrough in science and technology. Everybody is really excited about it at this point in time. It definitely does seem like overall there is a lot of excitement specifically about the pop culture icons of the direwolf. But again, I don't necessarily know if this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing, whether reintroducing species into our environment is good or bad. It seemingly would have some cost to it. That being said, it's absolutely amazing that we're able to use this cloning technology to bring back extinct animals, because there is quite a bit of extinct animals out there. There's always going to be a conversation or debate about whether or not we should bring back these extinct animals. Some animals we've actually made extinct ourselves in recent modern eras. So I think like things like that would be a little bit less debatable, but bringing something back from seemingly the Ice Age may or may not be a good idea. I mean, we've all seen Jurassic Park. So hopefully they don't bring back any dinosaurs. That's all I have to say. Again, these are adorable wolf puppies. Amazing stuff. I just thought this was really interesting. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.